Sure.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Demystifying AI for MSPs, the show where we, our wonderful panel and I, talk through AI. What's going on? What's new? And this is our last episode of 2024, guys. It's like wild, right?
It's amazing how fast the year has gone.
I feel like I blinked and we managed to do an entire year of content for the show.
It's just evident of how old we are now. That time goes so fast.
Right? you just blink and suddenly you're Rip Van Winkle, man.
Yeah.
Look, next thing you know, we blink and it'll be 2027. Who knows? Wild times. So, guys like to start this off a little bit with some excitement, right? Like, we like to talk about what's got everybody excited. So, Kyle.
There's no shortage of exciting things in the world of AI.
Right.
Again, the proverbial what's new this week is almost, we're almost going to turn this into a bi-weekly, like twice a week segment where there's a new announcement.
Significant ones too.
Yeah, so Amazon is not a small company. They're not shy from investing. They've spent billions in the AI space, but not in their own structure. I mean, to be fair, they've always had a lot of money in research and development for AI ML research, and they've had their own models and stuff in the past. But they made big announcements in the last week or so with Amazon Nova, and that's interesting because it's their first foundational large language model. And like everyone who makes any announcements about an AI foundational large language model, you know, it's performant, it is responsive, but in typical AWS fashion, their pricing model is interesting.
Really?
Right.
All right.
Right.
Talk about that.
Well, I just in general, they're approaching it from you know, they're a supplier, right? They're a middleman for you know, ISPs or you know, independent software vendors, right? So their model is built for that. So they made their models and they align their pricing in a way that it's just intriguing for a software vendor. So that's definitely interesting. They've also built. They have 4 text generation models, 3 of which are available now. They're available in their Bedrock platform. This might not be extremely relevant for a lot of MSPs because there aren't a lot of MSPs who have that direct relationship with AWS in that capacity, but it might be worthwhile for you to consider them because of their pricing structure. They've also built a image generation model called Canvas and a video generation model called Real. So they're you know, some might consider them to be late to the game. Of course, they've got their direct relationship with Anthropic, and they even doubled down on that recently, almost quite literally with the double down aspect of it. But all meanwhile they're building their own. So Bezos gave an interview this past week where he said, you know, he's retired, but he's not really retired. He's still involved. He's still on the board. He's still day-to-day stuff. And about 95% of what he touches is AI. So, you know, it's that important to him. You know, he owns roughly 10% of AWS still that he's plugged into what they've got going on with AI. So there's that. I mean, that's not small news. One of the top 5 companies in the world gets into the fray with a foundation model. That's worth talking about.
That absolutely is. That's pretty awesome. And
then there's the not big news, but I think it's interesting. Khan Academy, which is, if you're familiar with Khan Academy, which probably means you have younger students. Khan is a learning platform that got a great story. Its impetus is quite impressive with where they come from and why they exist. But they've built an AI bot for training. So I could appreciate this because I sit down with my daughter even this past week to study for her midterms, and I'm looking at mathematical equations that I haven't considered in years, and I'm only able to assist her in doing so with the assistance of ChatGPT. Without it, it would be a very cantankerous conversation, and she would hate me. so I can appreciate how an AI that's specifically built not to just give them the answers, but walk them through, engage them through the process of learning it. Conmigo, which is the name of the AI that Khan Academy has built, is designed to educate,
Interesting.
not teach, not lead them the answers, but like engage them to think through a conversation. It doesn't immediately give them the answer. It forces them to at least do the work. So I like the approach on that side. That's interesting. And the goal is to put
Love those guys.
the goal is to put an AI tutor with every student, and I think that's inevitable.
I love it. Like, man, maybe I need to go do this, because I'm pretty sure they've reinvented math since I was in school.
I'll add to that. Bill Gates got involved, and actually part of their program happened in Tampa, near here. But they did this, it's probably been 4 or 5 years now, but they partnered with Khan, and they went to, I think it was middle schools, and put them through a curriculum where, you didn't do teacher first, you kind of did your lesson first on Khan and your lesson plan, and it was a little more dynamic in the way that you did it. And then the teacher, so a couple things came out of that. So you always have, in any sort, you're going to have the people that are the slowest to get it, people in the middle, and people up front. It benefited all three, and here's how it played out. The slowest people, the teacher could see what was getting to them, and you could imagine. And I've talked to John Licata, who's been on the show. He tried to put together a program like this a couple of years ago. But the AI can maybe learn your learning style, and adapt and bring that out. So then the teacher can get involved to teach to the exception instead of teaching to the mean. They'll go to the people that are having the trouble. The middle did as well or better than classroom top, but the top people. So here's two things happened with the top people. The top people zoomed ahead from 5th grade to 6th grade to 7th grade.
Really?
They weren't confined by what the teacher had to teach to, and even that they could go to the exceptions. But in the class, they found that the upper middle and upper would go to the would converse with the other people and help them on their exceptions. And then now you have a teacher that is teaching to doing what they really want, which is teaching and not broadcasting.
Right.
And the concept of AI working on that problem, personalizing your content, and still having a tutor, still having someone that you can escalate to, but having that person really use their novel skills at teaching to teach and not just broadcast is phenomenal. So I'm excited about that market. Education's a market with AI that I think is super ripe for a disruption. And obviously, as we look at the cost of college and the debt people are going into, these techniques, I think, will be ripe for someone to execute on.
Yeah, that's me.
I had a debate with a teacher, not to go off the rails, but I had a debate with a teacher who, for obvious reasons, has fear of AI. And the analogy they used was, okay, if you're not learning the principles, the foundational elements, like if you're not learning the formulas, then how will you be able to use them? I was like, well, in all defense, and I in a lot of instances I agreed with their argument, but in all defense, like I won't need to know the formula. I'll have the calculator in my pocket. Who has it?
Slide roll a calculator, same thing happened.
Yeah.
I think people fear the future too much. It will be a difference, and the unfortunate reality is that some people have grown up their whole life knowing tool A, and if it's too rapid going to tool B, they'll long for tool A, and that's just never going to change. But the pace with which that tool A might get obsoleted, the pace of change has increased itself. So, and we don't know how fast this will go, and if there's an acceleration effect of AI working on AI or something like that. But yeah, I think that's real. I think reality is for at least for primary education, there's a tending to people part of that doesn't go away, and I think as a society we'll have to figure out. Teachers don't want to call themselves babysitters, but that is part of what's happening, so people can go off to work.
Yeah.
That is part of, and then if we can build a better mousetrap where you can have, a virtual teacher doing the basics and the teacher doing the differentiation, I think that's a good thing too.
Yeah, I agree. Keith, what else got you excited this week, man? I know you have all the things.
I'm going to touch on a couple things because I just want to call them out, and then deeper on some other things. Google has done a couple super interesting things. Gemini, kind of quietly, got way better. Gemini has gotten way better. It's right up there, near state of the art now. I think we anticipated they would always be a competitor, but they've just been people have been frustrated with what they've gotten, and not a lot of adoption there. But they're getting their act together, and they've got the horsepower to do it. But then their quantum computer, a lot of people got excited about that. The quantum doesn't do the type of calculations that are needed, that are currently used for AI. Now, could a different form of AI algorithm model leverage quantum's unique capabilities? I don't know. I really don't. That stretches my brain to try to understand. But in this particular case, AI did the error checking for quantum computing, and it was the errors that were stopping scale. So error reduction went orders of magnitude better by an AI assisted algorithm that helped quantum computing really accelerate. So that's major breakthrough. Obviously there's a few calculations they said would take longer than the history of time to calculate on the biggest supercomputer. It could do in 5 minutes. But there's a narrow set. I want to be clear on quantum computing. There's a narrow set of problems that it excels at. It is not a general purpose computer, and they're probably going to be millions of dollars. And I'm not really sure. I suspect that the Googles and the Microsofts and IBMs of the world that have these will introduce them as a service, like getting a VM. I don't think that we're going to have a cold room where we hang our own quantum computer, but the time will come, and we'll see what those applications are. Super, super exciting,
Yeah. And access to it's going to be limited and cost prohibitive quite some time.
Yeah.
Some of the bylines around their Google supercomputer or microchip was the fact that they might have proven the multiverse. I didn't double click into that, but I thought that was interesting that there was evidence from theirs that there's something there maybe.
I'm not nailing it on one universe. I don't need to.
You don't need two of you.
Whether
two Keith.
I don't need
Too
that
much.
right now.
So I don't need more than one of me in the multiverse. That's a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff from Microsoft and their announcements. Build your own kind of chat bot. Stupid simple. Just point to a SharePoint repository and have your own, and you can share it in Teams. That's kind of neat. Their vision has been added to Copilot. Lots of things probably could go on for Microsoft for a while. But I'll touch on the OpenAI stuff. So OpenAI's had 12 days of announcements. Sora's finally released.
You managed to get into it?
I haven't. In fact, it was,
Try right now. Hold on.
yeah, there's too many people in it, and they cut off access to it yesterday. I saw Marcus Brownlee did a good review of it, kind of pretty of an objective review. The next pixel generators, next word generators still have a weakness in that they lose context in certain scenarios, and image generation does that too. If you can think about having an image and computationally predicting the pixel adjacent to you, that's great. But what happens when an object goes in front of another object and you don't have a reference pixel to pick from? So things in Sora will still disappear. They'll go off the screen and be gone, or they'll reappear with the wrong kind of animal's legs on them. There's lots of cool things it can do. I think one of the projections I would make, if you want to, for next year,
our 2025 projections.
I think there'll be a mixture of models that until we get an algorithmic breakthrough, I think we're going to learn how to use in combination the tools that we have to get better. And what we're not doing right now is using world models, meaning we're not taking kind of like a physics-bound model of a human, even if it's a stick figure. We can do these all day in Minecraft. We can do them in other things. We can map things 3D, even if they're not high res. Well, if you can take that and you can know what leg motion makes sense and what objects going behind each other make sense, and use that as a source to feed to something like Sora, such that it can build out the pixels that make sense, but you still have this kind of foundation of a world model, where the world model might not be able to render great textures and make fluid motion or the wind blowing. We can do that. We can do a foundation on a world model, and kind of a finishing with a Sora or a next pixel predictor or diffusion model.
Yeah,
so for those that know what that means. So I think that was big. Another thing, they've announced a few things. The O1 is released. O1 Pro got released. So they've they've made O1 Pro $200 a month. It's only marginally better, but I think really this is a way for them to break the ice for people that, if these things get good enough where they offload a person 50%, $20 a month is too cheap, right? I'm not going to get into what people make, but you don't make $10 a month. Like that's, I know you don't. So, I think that we're going to have to get comfortable. We've talked about that. I think we'll get more comfortable with what's the right price for the right amount of offload. As these things get better, these companies are going to go broke if they keep charging $20 a month for these things with as much computation as it takes. So that's interesting. I think that's the best reasoning model. The Chinese and a lot of people are right behind trying to emulate, and right now they're not as good at reasoning, but they're doing some of the same techniques to get maybe 60, 70, 80% of the benefit that we get with Strawberry. But everybody's knows what secret sauce they have. They know what the sauce is. They don't know how to make it yet, but they know the building blocks and all the ingredients and just need to get it right. And then Canvas, I think, is another thing they introduced. That's their kind of, UI for doing AI, where you can have your prompt on one side and your output on the other side, and you don't have to interrupt this stream of data with the things you want to interact with your data. But that can do coding now, and it can do code execution. So you could have created Python before, but now you can run Python. Python's the only one you can do. I don't think that this is necessarily earth-shattering that you can run it in place just yet, but it foretells of a time of how this might evolve, and we can do multiple languages, and we can kind of do in-place testing or in-place QA or in-place modeling, or wireforming or something. Like you can see where that might evolve into getting feedback really quick. Hey, oh, that dialog box is in the wrong place. Can you move that down?
Hey, you got a runtime error over here for this.
Yeah,
right?
what does this error mean?
Yep.
And can you fix that? And that you could start seeing these dialogues. So I think that's those are the kind of the three big things. I'll pause there, but that's some of the big things. And I got one last one. MIT a few weeks ago. This is not related to the big companies, but they did something interesting too that I think is worth noting. They did the ability to learn, a model to learn in real time. So it can learn from what it's working on. Like a model, we know the weights are set in stone.
Right.
All you're doing is passing tokens through it, and you don't really get any dynamic interaction with the model. The model is what it is. You can change the tokens, but you can't, and then the tokens out will change if you change the tokens in, but you can't change the weights. With this, what they did is they did low rank adaptation. For people who know what that is, basically you're inserting your own little parameters, and they made those dynamic. So they have these kind of tunable parameters that are right inside the model that they can use, so that in real time they can learn, and the next time that you do an iteration through it, it can understand what just happened.
Right.
And
So where is this on the scary awesome scale?
I think that's, I think that a lot of these things need to mature more before they're scary. But I think everybody's trying to find a better way to introduce memory and learning to a model that has no memory and no learning. And so if that's one of the mechanisms they're going to use, most people use, they store stuff off in a little stub document, and they just pull that stub document in to be your memory. And, is that, that's not really all that sophisticated, but that's what we have today. I think each one of these little things that show promise And that's the last thing is I would say is as we looked at Strawberry, we look at things. The models haven't changed a lot since we had, there's been some evolution, but not a revolution. It's in the 7.5 years since, or 7+ years since Attention Is All You Need. There hasn't been an algorithmic major breakthrough, but there's been a lot of things you could bolt on. There's a lot of things that you could do around it, and you could do retrieval augmentation, and we can, Strawberry has its own flavor, and we got things that we're tacking onto it, that we're creating a system around it, and the system is more than the model, and the system plus the model, and when the system, the things with it, are tuned along with a model, you get something like Strawberry. But I think that's what we're probably going to see for the next year, is that people are going to keep adding on ways to add memory and ways to add context, and
another prediction. There we go.
yeah, that's definitely going to, and people are starting to refer to them as systems instead of models, I think is the next phase.
All right. So guys, we talked in the series about a ton of stuff. And I want to just kind of go through and recap a few of these and, kind of get y'all's feelings on what are some of our major takeaways from this last year. I know, one of the things for me as we were having a lot of conversations was like, first and foremost, get your data in order, right? Like, let's just touch on that for a minute here. Like, it's really that garbage in, garbage out, and you want it to have access to the things you want it to have access to, but not have access to the things you don't want it to.
Yeah. One of the highlights of AI is that it forced us all to make sure that, okay, I have this new capability. What can I give it?
Yeah.
Right. What information can I enable it and empower it with? And that data set is so critical, right? And having it not just how do I get it to it? Is it in the right format? Is it secure? Is it in a way where I can trust that I don't have information or data? If there is information or data there that I don't want it to know, right? I can't comb through every bit and byte to walk through that. So what restrictions, what controls can I put on that data to prevent it from being captured and used? And I say captured, but used really in that. So that's critical. It was such a it's not like data hasn't been important. It's not like data hasn't been a valuable asset. It just threw gas on it.
Yeah.
So
Agreed. Absolutely. Keith,
Data, data is a lot of what this first gen of AI is. It's really kind of knowledge exposure and quicker access to knowledge. So a natural language way of getting the knowledge you want. But if your knowledge, we haven't had to think that much about knowledge and knowledge management. We would just go find the doc in a folder or something, or do a query with SQL, which is cumbersome. But now we have a natural language way to get that back. And then, what we're trying to do is a couple things. When you talk about securing, we have a natural language way to find things. Well, it might have been cumbersome to find before. It's not as cumbersome to find now. So your old methods of hoping obscurity was your level of security, it might get exposed now that there's an AI agent that can query it and build knowledge on all of those folders or SharePoint sites or whatever that you have. That might be, so that's one thing we're finding is that we need to take a look through a new lens at our old data, just to make sure that the new capability isn't creating a new vector. It's just creating a way to find that vector easier.
Let me firsthand example that, because I don't, if you have access to Copilot and you've used it, just any generic search in Copilot for a specific term, like you're thinking about it for your data, right? Where was this information? What file? I can't remember where this file was. Almost every time I do a search for that, I end up with somebody else's file, which I've never seen, never had access to it, and it may or may not have pertinent information for. Well, it may not have like secure or insecure information, right? But there's something relevant to what the search term I was looking for that data. That happens almost on a daily basis. Yeah.
And I've been working with not selling anybody's stuff, but I've been working with Glean. Glean's a bunch of former Google people that went out, and one of the things they did to add on, so they were kind of primed for the AI revolution. You know how Google search has kind of relevance, and they can tell relevance by building this what they call the page rank algorithm. It was made by Larry Page, but it was a way to rank your pages, whatever. So a little bit of, yeah, that's where that came from. They kind of took that to enterprise search. So they can kind of derive from who accesses a document how relevant that document might be to you based on your relationship with that person and the type of information it is. So there's an extra piece of metadata on top of the data that allows you to add extra context to that relevance. So just asking a generic question, he might ask a similar question, but talent might ask a similar question, but you had different context and you wanted different things. And I think that's an interesting angle on it. I think other people would obviously be looking to build that graph of interconnections of people, the weights of those interconnections, meaning how relevant someone else's stuff, and then how if someone likes something or reads it for 20 minutes, how likely is it that someone else is going to want to read that and not the other 30 that come up in the search results? So that these are the things where we can start to nurture AI to be better suited at giving the right answer.
Yeah, good point. And I think this feeds into kind of what one of my next learnings was like in all of this, security is key. Like, I know we had a lot of conversations with a ton of guests. We had two great Beards episodes with Jason Slagle, Matt Lee, Tom Lawrence, and just had great conversations around security and AI and everything revolving around that. So I think that's another big thing. Do you have anything you want to add on security side of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same conversation that we've been having, right? Again, there's just more gas being thrown on it. The potential for misuse and abuse, as Keith just said, the easeability at getting access to it, the effectiveness of its ability to sort, sift, lift, and bring back for me the what might be relevant. In this case, the potential for misuse of what might be relevant is just that much greater. So, the opportunities for MSPs abound when it comes to the AI conversation. The AI conversation probably doesn't lead to an AI sale right out of the gate. The AI conversation leads to a security audit and a compliance configuration or some alignment of how is our data stacked and tagged and aligned with these appropriate protocols to prevent leakage, right? Because that's very real. You don't know, you don't have the ability to lift through and sift through your entire data set. But that's the long haul effort for if I want value out of my data and I want to plug it into this tool that has this capability, you've really got to go down that effort. So that's that first conversation. I mean, that first project is not going to be an AI project. It may start there, but it's going to be a data and security conversation. So again, this is so key. It's been so evident for us here. Again, 2024 was one of those years where AI was novel until it wasn't. And that moment when it wasn't novel and it became practical and useful, it's a very real risk discussion that we've got to engage with our customers. And for most of the MSP ecosystem and universe, we're dealing with SMB, small to medium-sized businesses who haven't historically been targets, who haven't had to historically jump through all the compliance hoops, haven't been held to the rigor and effort because they were legitimate targets. Well, we all know what the last couple of years have looked like for SMB and being targets. So this isn't any different. It's just the addition to and same conversation that we've had for years. It's just another reason for us to go down that path. And on the other side of that is gold. On the other side of that is value, not just for you, the MSP, but for your customers and their clients and their customers and their clients. So like that, the opportunity and value creation opportunity here with AI is definitely real. Just with it comes, all of the things we've talked about with risk that we need to be real about. obscurity isn't available anymore, right? We can't hide under the radar. So
Yeah, and I'd add, I mean, that's very valid. I think that's, where people's head needs to be. I also think we're moving into agentic, and I do think, I kid with all the people that try to sell me something, but I literally will mark the time in a call when someone says AI for the first time. It's usually within 3.5 minutes, you're going to have the word AI come out.
Yeah.
So agentic is going to be, in my mind, is going to be phenomenally hard to secure fully and for people to understand how to secure. But every tool that we're looking at and teams are looking at has an AI component to it going into 2025. Every one, from talk to people that make firewalls,
Yeah.
AI. We talk to people that make a thing that tacks onto Salesforce, or helps sales, or helps marketing, or all of it has AI on it. Do they really know how to do it? So with agentic, we have the ability to look across a set of data sources and help make a decision. Well, if someone poisons that data source and puts in something that says turn left when you should have turned right, how are you going to ever find that? Like, do we even have the tools or knowledge or notion that exists?
Right.
And in any way, that I do think that as it relates to security, agentic stuff, we're going to have to be. My guidance is still that we should probably make prescriptive actions and not arbitrary. I think we're a long way away from being able to say, well, here's a problem, write some Python and solve it. That is scary. That is not that's not viable to me. Shouldn't be viable to our audience.
Awesome.
No, I mean, when that executes well, we can all clap our hands. The ability of a nefarious person to just interject just enough data to make that go in the weeds means that I think I wouldn't allow that here. I don't think our InfoSec team would allow that here. But if you have predefined actions that are well defined, and all you're doing is updating a variable, and then that variable is kind of neutered and doesn't do anything too malicious, you can make as many of those actions as you want. But it's almost like having unparameterized SQL versus having a stored proc with a couple variables. Like one is not perfectly safe, but at least you have a controlled outcome. The other one is scary, and the internet learned that. For those of us that are old enough.
Our InfoSec team twitching, as you're saying.
Yeah. I gotta tell you, I watched the demo. I think you would have cried if you saw. I almost sent it to you. I didn't. I watched a demo of an agentic product the other day where the prompt was literally respond to my emails, and I'm like, with what? Respond with what? Like answer the emails for me? And the bot went off and started responding to emails. And I'm sure somewhere there was criteria that wasn't discussed or defined of like, okay, only answer scheduling questions or only do this, but like that would be scary. Like respond to my emails. Oh, okay.
And then think of all the recipients that now don't have confidence that was a human.
Right.
That might have been a bot, and maybe it was a bot that got hacked. And then you're sitting out at a retraction. Hey, ignore that last email. That was my bot. Or that could have been the bot. You lose the confidence of the receiver. So
the bot sends out an email saying that guy was a bot.
You are the bot.
The real person.
Here, I know we're gonna get into this later, but that is in my mind the number one thing that 2025 is gonna. The lessons learned at the end of 2025.
2025 prediction.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the lessons learned for 2025 are going to be all trust related.
Love it.
They're all going to be trust related. AI in the format that we have it now, obviously image generation and video generation, we've had some of the capabilities, but we were limited at best, and it's still, I mean, the comments they all say is this is the worst it's going to be. It's just going to get better. And it is freaking fantastic now. So, we've talked about this in the past, but I think, in 2025, we're going to learn some hard lessons about trust. And we've already seen the technology being abused. We've already heard reports and we're seeing it in the wild of amping up phishing and amping up just targeted attacks with real information, with viable technology that is real. So like at the end of 2025, there's going to be a trend for like family safe words. right? And even maybe even corporate passcodes, right? The equivalent of landing in the middle of the enemy territory with a flash, with a password, right? How do I validate that you are you and that we are each other? And so that's going to be real. Trust is going to be something that's going to be flexed in 2025. That's a real problem.
It's a real problem. I agree. And that just kind of brings me up to my third point, at least, is that AI is moving so fast. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times in the show that what we're talking about right now is going to be probably obsolete by the time you watch this broadcast. I mean, and that was actually proven true a couple of times, right?
We're actually live, so they might be watching it now. So hopefully not.
Now, because we are live. But I mean, even some of the stuff that we've already read about could potentially be obsolete by the time we're sitting here talking about it live, right?
I mean, Keith's talked about that so many times on this episode. The fact that the number of papers, the amount of research, the amount of money that's being invested in AI is just astronomical. And that's not slowing down. Bezos said in an interview this past week is that there isn't a software company on the planet that isn't evaluating how AI can engage in efficiency gains for their customers. So it's real. It's going so fast.
And I we're touching on some 25 things, but one of the challenges I'm already identifying as we're trying to lay out an AI strategy for our enterprise is that because every tool has it and departments have some autonomy, as they should, because they understand their problem set the best, to go evaluate what tools the market has. So they take the tool that they own, and their sales guy says, hey, we got Copilot for this, which Copilot isn't trademarked to Microsoft.
Right.
And they show them some capabilities. All this is a truism. All AI looks good in a demo. But that's completely structured data, cherry picked in most cases, and your mileage will vary. It's not that it may vary, it will vary. All your use cases won't be that good. But now we have kind of all of these little spot tools competing for your attention with a narrow scope of data that they have access to, that is tuned for a single purpose. So now we have, if we buy this AI tool and it costs $30 a month, but we only have $30 per head to spend, what am I giving up by not building a general tool? And can I make a general tool that is as good as this one? Or am I going to end up getting, spot tool here, spot tool here, spot tool here, and have 4 UIs to consume AI, all with their own security considerations and all with their narrow view of the world? The AI sprawl is absolutely real. I think we're all going to feel it soon. And, it's hard to find an AI to serve them all. I think you have to build it to go to them. I'm a little bit biased toward the Copilot platform. That is a good foundation, but I am going to tell you that's not plug and play either. That is nowhere near plug and play. You have to go to it. You have to groom your data. You have to groom your prompts. You have to put work into it. You have to filter out data you don't want there. There's lots of things you need to do to get the right results for that. But maybe that's the unifying platform. It might be for us. But an AI sprawl, I think, is a real thing, and something that I'm trying to guard against before it happens too much. But I don't think going into this year, I already see it happening. And I may have to reel it in for a year from now because people are already excited about some things. And it's going to take some time to build a generic tool. A general tool that can have accomplished that would take a while to build. They can get value today. So part of me wants to say, go get your value now. But then that becomes sticky and it becomes hard to build the other thing. So anyway, people know about tool sprawl. I guarantee you our MSPs live tool sprawl all day long and understand that possibility.
I can imagine how hard it is. I mean, you deal with a single company, and it's not a single company, right? We've acquired multiple companies over the years, so you've got multiple domains engaged with in this effort, but like in tons of departments, almost effectively you are dealing with a bunch of different client sets. But for MSPs who don't necessarily control the spend of all their clients, they find out after the fact, like they're all rolling their eyes right now and saying, oh yeah, like somebody just added this new thing into the network, and we had no information about it whatsoever.
Right.
And it's now plugging into all of their data, and it's got this massive upside for potential value, but also this massive downside for potential risk. I mean, that's probably a daily occurrence for MSPs. So I can imagine that hits home for them for sure.
All right. So I absolutely agree with you guys on the topic. Like, one thing I want to dive into real quick in the time we got remaining is I'm going to call this section the predictions of Keith Stradamus. So, Keith, you made some predictions earlier this year.
I did.
Well, let's see what Keith Stradamus looks like first and foremost. So,
You might have to say that, Jess. Do you have the Keith
Stradamus? Do we have Keith Stradamus? That's hard to say.
It is.
There we go. There's the great Keith Stradamus.
There he is.
So let's talk through some of your predictions, Keith.
Okay.
So let's hear it. What were your predictions?
I will preface this. I wrote a document in our AI research chat, and it said it was predictions for 2024, things you can make fun of me for later in the year. So that was the that take them for what they're worth. But I think I had 11 of them, and 50%. I think you have to use some judgment on all of these. I had predicted that we would have 50th percentile AGI by now, and that's so hard to define because but since then, Google and OpenAI have come up with their definitions of AGI. A person this week at OpenAI said that they had hit AGI, and the 50th percentile mark. Here's the test I would use: if we went into Walmart and we picked an arbitrary person in Walmart, and you had 100 questions to ask, would you pick OpenAI 0.1, or would you pick that person to get more of the answers correct?
Right.
Is Walmart the right store for that? I don't know.
Well, that may be representative of the 50th percentile. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think that was one. I did think that Elon would open up his world models. He was very much about open source models. I think I got that. I would say I got that wrong. He did open source his language models. Obviously, he's big on that. But I'm not aligned with him on. People are going to be saying Elon Musk's name for 2,000 years. So debating him doesn't make sense for most of us. But the one thing that I don't completely agree. He thinks things should be open so they'll be safe, but a language model, it's going to say the wrong word, but nobody's going to die, at least not until we have a virtual president or a virtual general or something. But a self-driving car, and I can tell you, he knows better than anybody that Optimus isn't just going to be in a factory. Right. And its equivalents aren't going to be in a factory. So the world model that those things are built on, I'm kind of glad they're closed. And all it would do is accelerate, it would accelerate China getting that stuff. They're building incredible robots now too. Their AI isn't second class. Most of it, I'm surprised how much they've caught up considering they don't have the compute we do. But that would just be feeding them. But I did think he would open that world model up to more people, either through licensing. I think I would say I was wrong on that one.
It's wrong. All right. So we got it wrong.
I got it wrong. So I had 11 of them. Let's see. I don't have them in front. I should have had them in front of me, but I did think that they would. A couple were on Tesla. I thought Tesla would build. They would announce but not have delivered a car that would have been robotic, AI robotic, assembled, and 2/3 of the labor would have been reduced. So 1/3 of the labor of the next equivalent car by using AI and robotics.
Apparently I have an alarm set.
And I did say for Tesla that they would have a self-driving car announced and may have in select cities be using it. They do have a self-driving car announced, and supposedly there's one driving around. I said it would be the fair weather city, so
Okay.
Austin or Las Vegas or San Francisco,
Mhm.
and it has been spotted that there has been a robotaxi
Hmm.
by them. That doesn't mean that it's open, that it's general purpose yet, but that's self-driving. So I think that's
I got the list.
about 80% right. Do you want? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
and then
let's go through these fairly quickly. We're running out of time, but I want to
Yeah.
just showcase these.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Went through those. Yeah, software coding assistance will be available for more people. I think that's pretty obvious that mostly happened.
Yep.
I thought AI would be built in and automatic. So we're still kind of sidebar. I thought there'd be a little more, like if you need the emotion of an email,
Mhm.
we could do an emoticon and it'd automatically detect it for you and make it. Or if we needed something that's urgent,
Mhm.
or whatever, that we'd have flags for that, and you didn't have to go to your AI and say, AI, I'm going to push a button, tell me the sentiment. That sentiment
Yeah.
would be baked in
line, basically.
Okay.
in line, and I think that'll happen. I don't think it happened much this year, so I'd say I over predicted on that one. I thought some companies would go bankrupt, especially AI companies would lose the race. Inflection got basically,
Yeah.
and then even some of the image model guys are effectively going bankrupt. I would say I got that right. Inflection basically disappeared and became part of Microsoft, and they took the talent. I thought an anti-agency movement would come out. I still think there's an opportunity for that. It didn't become part of the election. So I'm glad AI wasn't a war topic for the election. But I did think there'd be a bigger counter movement, like this counter progress movement, where people say, and I think that will more happen the day that customer service or one of these industries starts to get losing jobs. When people start losing jobs, I think we'll get that. But I wouldn't say we have a huge anti-agency movement.
It
There's
exists, but it's still on the fringe, and
there's not enough of it.
Push that to the future. All right.
Yeah, that's. I think that still happens, and I think this one I nailed. China/Russia will get in on the map for AI.
Yep.
I think China is all over it. If you look at any of the leaderboards now, if the open source leaderboards, China is number one in many of them, and and it's the same thing there. Our Magnificent Seven, if you want to call them that, the trillion-dollar companies of America are all leading it because it's so expensive to do. Their Magnificent Four or whatever, the Alibabas or whatever, are kind of leading theirs. But they're releasing image generation models that are amazing. They added reasoning on. That reasoning isn't quite as good as Strawberry, but the fact that they did it within 3 months of Strawberry, and it's not horrible, and it's pretty good, shows that their ability to adapt and to get the thing. So
I thought it was interesting too. There was on the Russia side, there was a Russian AI model that looked at they looked at the quality of the moon landing stuff that we put out in the 60s, and basically their model said, yeah, this is all fake. So
that's it. Those are mine for this year. So mixed bag.
Question reality stage of everything. Got it. All right. So your mixed bag. I'd say give you 60% Keith Stradamus. Excellent. All right. So we can put the great Keith Stradamus away for another year almost, because now we're going to get some predictions.
Yeah, I expected more. I expected more agentic.
I did too.
Earlier.
So what do you think of 2025?
Well, the conversations were good going into 2024 around agentic, and they're still good going into 2025. Agentic is real. It's an inevitability. The ability to point this bot that has reasoning and that you can control its intent and your desired outcome it's going to happen. Like this is what these things were built for. How that overlaps into the world of the MSP and what that looks like for us, or the MSP landscape. This is a world we're already used to, right? We're used to, as Keith mentioned earlier, writing scriptive solutions to solve very specific problems. I think in our world that will end up being a bot that wields the scriptive solutions for the very specific problems. So I won't have to.
The right one.
Yeah, I won't have to go sift through the 47 or 74 or 374 scripts that I have that might be applicable in any given situation, it'll just know, hey, these are the top two. Which one do you want to push the button and go? Or will it just pick the right one and tell you it worked or didn't?
So you democratize expertise that way. Take the
Absolutely.
best guy in the company that writes the best script, and then you allow it easy to find for the new guy. You have turnover to be able to find that capability.
We'll see how that goes next year. Any other predictions from the two of you?
Yeah, I think a few of them. I think voice. Some of the stuff it could be this year. It could be. I mean, it could 25. It could be 26. But voice will increasingly be an interface. We've done keyboards that came from typing, and that was our way that we could interact. And there's been voice interaction with computers for 20 years. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about voice as the interaction with the digital world, in a bigger way than Siri, more real time and more dynamic. But whether that's note taking or actions or for follow up or whatever, I think there might be an opportunity for someone to nail a device. Every time I think that there could be a disruptor, I think of how much it costs to do these things, and I'm like, well, Apple will probably nail that. But and if they don't, and someone does nail it, then I think that someone would pick them up. So
by the way, Rabbit is still putting out updates, so they aren't completely gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone's still keeping them moving on. I don't know. But,
not me.
I think the voice interaction, and I do think agentic. I don't think agentic will hit for a lot of people and a lot of roles this year. I still think customer service is going to be one of the first, where we'll have a way to deflect, meaning a certain number of tickets get. Hey, while we wait for someone to call you back, here's something you can do, whatever, things like that. Agent's going to be with you in 5 minutes. We'll call you back, whatever. But things like that, agentic, I think, will absolutely hit for a lot of people this year. What else?
Predictions from the two of you. Let's see what we got. I want to be able to sit here and do this next year and say, all right, what did you get wrong?
Well, I think the bolt-on AI capabilities where we're adding, capabilities that are outside the model, whether that's, things that do reflection or learning in real time, memory or customization, personalization. I think we'll just get more and more things around a model that make the model better and not just, hey, model, here's your answer. But an ecosystem around that model to get the most out of it. I think those will continue to grow. And kind of the reasoning, the runtime compute where we're doing reasoning in conjunction with the model, and things like that, I think will continue. I think the reasoning will ramp up tremendously. Reasoning isn't that great, but I think we could 2x, 3x our reasoning over 25. If you take from the time that Strawberry was released 1 year from that, I think. But if you take a complex reasoning benchmark, we might get 2, 3, 4 times better in 1 year, just using the techniques that Strawberry introduced, but the evolutions of those.
I'm going to channel Jay Ryerson here and say, what does it mean for the MSP? I think the involvement. So we're now a solid year for most software companies. We're now a solid year into, all right, how do we make this real for our clients? So, most have identified, hey, this is a way for us to solve it. Most of them have also realized that halfway through the landscape underneath them changed, so they had to pivot and adjust. But like we're now at a place now where as we go into 2025, we've got a solid year. A lot of people, a year and a half, 2 years of thinking through the problem space that they're specifically dealing with their customers and how this AI might fit. So like Keith alluded to earlier, all the products are now enabling some capability. And I think that's just going to continue to happen going into 2025. I think it's going to become real. So I think for the MSP, that the AI conversation isn't going to, like, I don't know, a lot of them will say, well, I don't really know what to talk about or like how to engage in that conversation with them. A lot of MSPs are being proactive and they're scheduling kind of lunch and learns, and that's relevant. I don't think the MSP is going to be able to hide from AI in 2025, because the relevance is just it's gonna come to their client in multiple fronts, in multiple products, multiple line of business applications. It's there. So I think that's something that every MSP has to have a discipline to engage in, to understand all the things we've talked about, what the opportunity is, what the risk is, and then therein lies another conversation of, all right, do you have a line of business, or do you have a practice in your MSP that works with ERPs, right? Because like you have manufacturing clients, and they all have this very specific ERP system, and that's not something you do with. So is that something you're partnering with another company to engage with? So there's some real questions around how we have, if we don't have the expertise, how we engage in that. So that's real for everybody in 2025. I think that becomes that's going to hit home for a lot of them, right? And then the other thing that I would say, that and not necessarily a prediction, but like I think this is just evident. Like, we have this supply of capability now, right? We've always been able to automate. We've always been able to write scripts to go accomplish something, but now I can insert reasoning, at least pretty decent reasoning, in the middle of step 3 and in the middle of step 17, and some kind of evaluation of, hey, did we accomplish what we were going, without engaging a human in that. So now automation, the ability to automate is going to compound with its functional capability without having to engage with the person. So my ability to manage the number of endpoints I manage is going to go up, right? Because of that efficiency gain. So the next question is going to be, how do we manage that? How do we wrangle that? How do we get our hands on that? I think 2025 will be a year where that gets answered. Obviously, we're trying to go down that path and solve that problem, because I think it's very real. But there's a decentralized effort with AI that is going to take place there. So
I love it.
There's a lot to consider.
A lot to consider.
Yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, we are out of time for today. So I appreciate both of you joining me on this adventure for the year. This has been awesome. I appreciate all of you who are watching us and have watched us throughout the year. This has been a lot of fun to produce. It's been a great venture as we've worked towards demystifying AI over the course of the year. Hopefully you've learned a few things. Hopefully you've had a lot of great conversations come out of this show. We would love to hear about them if you did. But until next time, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.